NIC Asia presents AP Talk Time. Title sponsor
NIC Asia.
बैंक पनि साथी पनि राम्रो पनि हाम्रो पनि.
Namaste and greetings to all. This is SABIKA SHRESTHA, your moderator for today's AP Talk Time. We are glad to have Barathan Pasupathi, the CEO of Zaza Airways, here to talk about important matters related to the airlines operations in Nepal. The airlines experience navigating Nepal's regulatory framework, the challenges raised by costly foreign flight fares, and the feasibility of conducting business at Gautam Buddha Bhairava Airport will also be discussed today. We look forward to your thoughts on these significant topics. Welcome to Nepal and welcome to AP1 as well.
Thank you, Sabika, and good morning. And thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Yeah.
So, how have you been? How is Nepal treating you?
Well, it's been wonderful. As you have correctly pointed out, Jazeera relaunched our services to Bhairava yesterday, and I was very pleased to let everyone know that I came in on a full flight into Bhairava International Airport, and the flight left Bhairava with a full load as well. So we are very extremely pleased with the reception we've received from the airport, the stakeholders, and more importantly from the market on relaunching the flights back to Bhairava.
So what are the places you visited in Nepal recently?
Well, it has been, actually it's been less than 24 hours since I landed yesterday, and it has been amazing. I landed in Bhairava. We had a very important stakeholders meetings. As I highlighted, the airport stakeholders, the government stakeholders met us, received us in a very warm way. And from there, I flew domestically from Bhairava into Katmandu, and we had meetings here in Katmandu as well. I can see why Katmandu and Bhairava and Nepal in general is such a tourist attraction to the international community. You are very blessed to have amazing mountain ranges, amazing landscape, and amazing culture and religious associations. I've even been able to go to Lumbini, the birthplace of Buddha and Buddhism as well. Yeah.
That's great to know. So talking about Zaza Airways operations in Nepal, how do you see Zaza's relationship with Nepal's aviation sector evolving with the years,
Look, that's a great question. Let me just take you a step back in terms of Jazeera's history. Just 2 weeks ago, Jazeera turned 19. It was 19 years of flying for Zaza Airways. We started our first flights in October 2005, and we have grown in 19 years to be an airline with 24 narrow-body aircrafts hubbed out of Kuwait International Airport. And over time, we have now grown the traffic across the network to 61 destinations to almost 5 million customers by the middle of next year. Now, our journey in Nepal started in October 2019. I think we all know what happened in very early 2020. COVID happened. Our journey started then, and it was a very interesting journey because that's when Kuwait and Nepal established some form of bilateral worker movements into Kuwait. And today, I was very pleased to hear from His Excellency, the ambassador, the Nepali ambassador in the Kuwait, who was on the relaunch flight yesterday from Kuwait to Bhairava, commenting that there are almost close to 125,000 Nepali citizens now in Kuwait. And so, coming back to your question, we started in October 2019 with just having services to Katmandu. We then grew that on the 16th of May 2022 by starting Bhairava. And today, we have a daily service right now in this winter season into Katmandu and 3 times a week frequency into Bhairava, serving the Nepalese community in Kuwait and the wider GCC region where Jazeera flies into. As you know, as you rightly know, the Nepalese community is quite spread out in GCC, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar and Doha, in the UAE, and the other connecting markets, including Southeastern Europe and the Caucasus. So Jazeera is able to connect our network across those markets and then connect Kuwait into Nepal in 2 points, Katmandu and Barathan.
So beside 61 destinations, what are the vision of Zaza Airways forward to cater the airways all around the world?
Jazeera, as I said, is now going to come into 20 years of flying next year from 19. We have an order book that was inked in early 20s, 21, 22, and we will be collecting another 26 narrow-body aircrafts. These are the Neo variants of 18 320 Neos and 8 321 Neos. Will have a larger seating capacity. Our fleet is expected to almost double in the next 5 years. If you look at the order book that is coming into Kuwait, from the current 24 aircrafts and 26 coming on stream. So that is almost expected to double in the next 5 years. And our growth story in Kuwait has been impressive. As you know, the direct connectivity that Jazeera has created in Kuwait over the last 19 years, it's allowed Kuwait to have direct connections to almost new markets that is never seen. We have flights into the CIS, connecting Kuwait into the Saudi market. We have got flights into Georgia. Last year we launched Batumi after the successful launch of Tbilisi as a leisure destination. We've done very well in Azerbaijan, in Baku, and we fly into Tashkent, Namakand, Samarkand. So we have a very interesting market segmentation. We cater to a very strong leisure market outbound in summer from Kuwait, and we connect our 61 points that we operate into summer and then in winter across the network on both the leisure market, the family market, the good employees who have to get to work in different points in Kuwait and the GCC, and also the religious market of Hajj and Umrah.
So, as we know, COVID has been hard time for every one of us. So, not only talking about Zaza Airways, but how hard it was to reboot for all the airways around the world.
Look, COVID, it was not only the airlines. I think if you dial back during COVID, it affected the airports, the whole community or the aviation ecosystem, tourism ecosystem. I'm sure Nepal also faced similar effects as you've seen in the US, in Europe, in Asia, in many parts of the world. However, if you've looked at what has happened in 2022, there was a huge spurt in travel post-COVID. Everyone wanted to travel. They call it revenge travel.
And wanted to come out of the house, yeah.
Exactly. And you've seen what has happened since then. There was a lot of growth that took place in many parts of the world. Growth is now moderating. Airlines have come back. Airlines have added capacity into markets. Airports have come back. Airports are also growing infrastructure across the world. You've seen a lot of investments that is taking place in the GCC, in Saudi Arabia, in many parts of the world, now bringing back tourism. So Jazeera, through COVID, has grown from strength to strength. Yes, we are impacted. If you just dial back in 2017, we were an airline with only 7 aircrafts. In 2017.
Only 7?
Only 7. And if you look at what we have done, from 2017 to 2023-24, we have grown to be an airline with 24 aircraft.
Okay.
So yes, COVID did impact many airlines, but it's also created opportunities for airlines to move into market, create new market streams and traffic flows from the different markets back into the hubs and to distribute that with the growth that is being seen in the GCC. So Jazeera, in that sense, grew from strength, was impacted in early COVID days. When COVID came out of COVID, has grown to be an airline with 23 aircrafts. And we were fortunate that we also put the order book just during COVID, and we'll be receiving our aircraft from the middle of 2026.
Even though you have been in Nepal for less than 24 hours, I'd like to know what can be Zaza Airways' role in Nepal's tourism growth, economic growth in next 5-10 years?
Look, first and foremost, I have to acknowledge that we have been very well supported by all stakeholders in Nepal's aviation and I would say the tourism community. We were very warmly received when Jazeera launched flights in October 2019, when we entered Bhairava for the first time in May of 2022. And what we see right now is that travel has returned to Nepal. Yes, there is some limitations in capacity in winter, very different from summer, but airlines are able to still launch international flights, not only in Katmandu, as we have shown with Bhairava as well. And that would not have been possible without support from government stakeholders. Where do we see ourselves in Nepal? Now, I also would like to add to the point that on top of the 125,000 Nepali citizens in Kuwait, there has been bilateral discussions between Kuwait and Nepal, and this is publicly known as well, on increasing the number of opportunities in Kuwait for Nepali residents to pursue work. And we anticipate growth. And we've seen that growth in Kuwait and also in the GCC market. So in that way, we will continue to grow our footprint and capacity into Katmandu and Bhairava. Now, the other added perspective is to bring in tourism. In markets where I travel to, a lot of our travel and trade partners are saying, could you connect trekkers, mountaineers, and adventure seekers in the network into Kuwait and bring them into Nepal? So we're also looking at opportunities of bringing in inbound tourism.
So coming back to the point again, so Zaza Airways is now being conducted in 2 of the international airports, Bhairava and Katmandu. So what do you see? There are 3 international airports in Nepal right now. So do you look forward for more flights also in Pokhara International Airport?
Look, the evolution of Jazeera since October 2019 was to grow our footprint in Nepal. And we have grown that from a function of bringing people from Kuwait into Nepal. And these were residents of Nepali residents working in Kuwait. Now, the opportunity for us from there was to then widen the distribution to the GCC into Kuwait, and we're doing that very well. And that has given us the impetus to have a second destination on top of Katmandu in Bhairava. Obviously, in my comments earlier, we are also very keen to develop, apart from the movement of people from just Kuwait into Bhairava, from a working segment to a leisure market. And that will then give us opportunities on expanding the footprint. Of course, Pokhara is another international airport.
Which is also a very good place for tourist destination.
Exactly, and we have been watching it. We have seen that develop over time. And with our intent of growing our footprint in Nepal, as we have done over the last 5 years from 2019 to 2024, we also will be keen to do that, and we'll have to study. We have to study in terms of what the market is, how it bodes for Jazeera in terms of international traffic and our network of 61 destinations, how we can develop the markets in those destinations via Kuwait to bring in tourists. So yes, there's never no as an answer. It's something that we have to evaluate, and definitely Pokhara is a very good point to come into Nepal for tourism. Yeah.
So recently, the airport of Katmandu, Tribhuvan International Airport, is going to be closed for 10 hours every day for the renovation and construction thing. So how is this going to affect the airways business?
Look, I think the airport is improving the taxiways, as I understand, and it's quite normal. It's quite normal to see airports around the world go through a phase or period where they take an opportunity in a low season to do developmental work, and likewise that's being done here in Nepal as well. And if you've seen from our statistics, we have seen that the market capacity has come off compared to the peak seasons. Obviously, we had double daily flights into Katmandu, and now we are a single frequency flight, 7 flights a week. But we have been able to then add 3 more flights into Bairava during this period. So we are bringing in traffic that we normally bring in, slightly lower than normal, but we're still being able to do that. I do understand the construction works will end by the end of March next year, and airlines can then resume back to the normal frequencies and slots. So we are looking forward to that. Yeah.
Do you think that Nepal's government's aviation policy comes near to the standard of international aviation policy?
Look, to be fair, with our interactions with the government stakeholders, they have been supportive. Of our initial launch in 2019 and our ensuing growth, both in Katmandu and Bairava. So my comment on that point is that from a policy setter's point of view, they have embraced international airlines coming into Nepal, and importantly so post-COVID, to bring back the growth of traffic, right? Now, can more be done? Of course, from an airline's point of view, if you ask any airline executives, we say yes, more can be done. And one of the things for a low-cost airline is to keep our costs low. Our fares are very accessible and affordable, but cost has to be low. If you look at some of the costs that we have here in Nepal compared to other parts, we think there's an opportunity to work. We always like to work with government and stakeholders. We like to work with them to see how we can bring greater efficiency in terms of turning around our aircraft at the airports, and also, which they are actually addressing with the runway works in the taxiway works in Katmandu. But more importantly, leveling the cost levels for low-cost carriers to grow further.
So, what are the sectors that Nepal's government need to improve in aviation sector?
Look, if you can just talk about Bairava as an example, look at what they've done. We launched in Bairava in May 2022. We then seasonally adjusted capacity, and then we stopped flying, as we spoke about less than 10 months ago, and now we're back again. The reason why we're back again, and the reason why you've seen a lot of international airlines coming back, is the government was very proactive with the government stakeholders, the airports, and the regulators to incentive airlines to come back into Bairava. And I think they've done it very well. You've seen a number of airlines. Jazeera came back in yesterday, and I've seen a number of airlines also make announcements of their new flights into Bairava. Now, actually, I have to add, Jazeera was the first international flight to be launched in May 2022 into Bairava. Yeah.
Were there any personal glitches with Nepal government or the policymakers, or maybe the aviation sector, that you had to adjourn the flight for so many months before?
No, I think weather played a part in it. I think there was a seasonal fog situation in Bairava, and we had we seasonally adjusted capacity as well. And the other thing is as well, the summer months becomes a very busy period in the Middle East. There's a lot of outbound travel that takes place from Kuwait and other parts of GCC into summer destinations. And I think the reason why we are seasonally adjusted capacity is to cater to the huge summer months. But we still maintained our presence in Katmandu, and now we're back in the winter months in Bairava.
So do you see Gautam Buddha Bhairava Airport a key hub for future expansion?
It was my first visit to the Gautam Buddha Airport in Bairava. I was impressed. I was very impressed. They have improved, from what I understand, terminaling facilities. There was enough counters to absorb the traffic of customers that came in our flight. In fact, I was one of the first few to passport, my international passport, to test the international visa on arrival, payment and processing scheme with immigration, and it worked perfectly. I think they put in place the right level of infrastructure and customer conveniences, And I think over time, what's going to be important when the traffic grows, I think more can be done. Yeah.
So is it capable of supporting more international flights in future?
Yeah, I think they are. If I look at the international terminal where I landed into, that is a very compact terminal, and I want to reference Jazeera has its own terminal in Kuwait. Okay. We are handling close to 5 million customers in a terminal relatively of the same scale that has been seen. So I think one has to be confident that if Jazeera can do it in Kuwait with 5 million customers in a terminaling capacity similar to what we saw yesterday, which is quite impressive, and I'm sure that can be done there as well.
So when talking about airways, safety comes first. So how do Jazeera ensure its international safety standards in Nepal?
I'm glad that you brought up the point in safety, because safety is the #1 priority at Jazeera. And in aviation, it is a foundation on which everything else is done. Aircrafts are ordered, markets are developed. On the context of safety, at Jazeera, we have a very mature safety management system. We build a value around every single employee that everyone is responsible for safety, and that cascades down from the leadership to all the frontline team members. With that, we also adhere to Kuwait DGCA regulations, which are of a very high standard. And Jazeera, on top of being a low-cost airline, also invest in IOSA certification. Mm-hmm. We are an IOSA certified airline. You'll see a lot of full-service carriers go through IOSA certification, and Jazeera is also an IOSA certified airline. And we subscribe to Kuwait State's ICAO, SPI and SPT programs, and the number of engagements we have with the regulators, and also with the regulators around the regions we fly to in terms of a deep engagement on safety. And on that regard, I'm very pleased to say that the value set in Jazeera on safety is excellent. But with safety, there's always learnings we can have day in, day out. Mm-hmm. And we have to work very closely with regulators in all the markets we fly to as well.
So how do you orient your team members to maintain the reputation of Airways? Look,
one is our value. I touched on safety. Mm-hmm. And 2, customer experience. We are aiming to always be an airline that customers trust, fares are affordable, and the booking process is convenient and simple. So over time, as in the 19 years that we've been around in Kuwait, we have grown our market share. We are one of the 2 national carriers in Kuwait, the 2 national carriers in Kuwait, and Jazeera is also a national carrier in Kuwait. We have grown aviation traffic into Kuwait. We have built direct point-to-point connectivities in Kuwait. Some of the points, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, these were points that were never connected to Kuwait. Jazeera launched its flights, mm-hmm. And there you go, the markets got connected.
Was it risky?
Look, with safety and aviation, the airline always evaluates
the risk factors.
Risk factors. I think when you launch a market, risk is one of the things you have to evaluate. You have to evaluate market opportunity. Mm-hmm. Now, I think when we launch markets, we fly one of the safest aircraft, the Airbus A320 aircraft, into markets where they have a proven record. The regulators have established safety management practices on both sides. It's an evaluation criteria with the regulators to launch the flights, and we have successfully done that over more than 61 destinations.
So may I know, how does Jazeera keep international fees affordable despite the rising costs?
Look, that's actually a very good question. As you know, inflation over the last number of years has grown quite rapidly post-COVID, and prices became very expensive. Then there was a supply chain dislocation in the aviation ecosystem. When you wanted aircraft parts and the subparts on the factories downstream were delayed. So airlines took some time to recover aircrafts and bring them online post-COVID. Now, how we keep costs affordable is we continuously have to innovate and reinvent ourselves. We look at better processes. We look at engaging our partners. One of the things Jazeera has done is in the time that we have grown, we operate close to 20,000 flights out of Kuwait, close to 20,000 flights. In that kind of volume, it then gives us the opportunity to go back to all our stakeholders, say that we are not doing 5 or 10 flights anymore, we are doing 20,000 flights. With that, there will be efficiency, there will be cost optimization, and there can be a lot of productivity increases. And so we have been able to do that quite well.
So, what do you think that drives international flight fares? And as Zaza Airways business is booming these days, so do you have any special offers or cost minimization scheme for customers or clients?
Look, we always, in our engagement of the market, encourage customers to book early. As you know, it's all about supply demand. And we give very good affordable fares very early. In Kuwait, we have a lot of promotions that go out 6 months in advance. And we encourage customers to make those bookings and plan those trips early. However, when it gets closer to departure, when some customers choose to book the tickets last minute or even at the airport, then things become expensive. I think it's just the supply-demand balances that we have to adjust to. And the other thing is also market conditions. As you know, aviation, one of the highest cost is fuel, jet fuel. And when you have times when the price of fuel is expensive, one can expect costs to be high as well. But we have been able to, over time, always offer affordable fares in all the markets we fly to. We have got very good encouraging load factors out of Nepal into Kuwait on that count that we have kept fares affordable.
So how do you see international airfares from Nepal evolving in the coming years?
Look, if you look at seasonality, if you try to book a ticket right now, in some parts of the world coming into the peak year-end travel season, they're all very high. They're all very high. I think it's just normal. Right? I think Nepal is not alone. You have all countries going through that period. And you see some of the cost constraints we talked about. Airlines had to adjust the cost index, and hence fares will be higher as well. But as I said, if customers plan their trips, they make their bookings early, and they're smart. I think most of the customers are quite savvy and smart these days with technology. They can, if they book there and plan the tickets early, I'm sure that will be affordable. But generally, as a whole, capacity and demand factors need to be considered when it comes to fares. Yeah.
So talking about the relationship between two countries, how do you see the operation of Zaza Airways in Nepal will help in upliftment between the relationship between Kuwait and Nepal?
Look, bilaterally, from what I've seen, in all the public readings and releases between the government discussions, I think Kuwait and Nepal have got very good relationship, and that goes well to show the large presence of growing presence. In fact, I would say growing presence. I understand that the numbers were only half what they were today, and they are even going to grow further because there was an article recently that almost 200,000 more visas will be opened up for Nepali citizens to pursue work opportunities in Kuwait over time. Now, given that, one can only say that the relationship is strong, and in my conversations with His Excellency on the flight, I felt that to be the case. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for both national carriers are flying into Nepal, and that goes to tell you that the bilateral relationship between Kuwait and Nepal is strong.
Lastly, how do you want to address our audience to travel through Zaza Airways?
Look, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And we are here to serve the aviation ecosystem, both in Nepal and Kuwait. And we're very pleased to see very high load factors in our flights, going to show that we provide a very safe, reliable, and customer-centric product to the traveling community. With the Nepali stakeholders and government, we will continue collaborating with everyone as we are building the market here. And over time, we would like to increase more flights into Nepal when the runway congestion is eased with all the developmental work. And Jazeera will continue growing its footprint and presence in Nepal. Thank you.
In spite of your busy schedule, it's our pleasure to have you here. Thank you for a thoughtful and insightful conversation with our AP1.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So today we had a conversation with CEO of Zaza Airways, Mr. Barathan Pasupathi. We talked about Zaza Airways operation in Nepal and future plans of promoting Zaza Airways more aircrafts in Nepal. We are signing out for today. Thank you for watching AP1 and keep on watching AP1 television. Namaste.
NIC Asia presents AP Talk Time. Title sponsor
NIC Asia.
ब्याङ्क पनि साथी पनि राम्रो पनि हाम्रो पनि